Hello, my name is Lucas Winters, and this is my presentation entitled Brody the Wise. The original play is Alcestis. I am the only person involved in making this presentation. Okay, first of all, the background of Alcestis. It was originally produced in 438 BCE. It won second prize at the City Dionysia Festival. Is considered part of a tetralogy, although the other plays are incomplete or unrelated. Some historical events that were happening around the time that it was created is the completion of the Parthenon in 438, the treaty between Athens and Sparta in 446, and the Peloponnesian War resuming in 431. I know they were supposed to be within 2 years, but there really wasn't much going on, so I branched out a little bit. Some facts about Euripides. He was born in 480 BCE on the island of Salamis. He first began putting on plays in 455. He didn't win his first prize until 437, and despite writing dozens of plays, only 18 survived. He died in 405 BCE in Macedonia. My synopsis of Alcestis, where Apollo helps Admetus make a deal with the fates, in which he is spared if he can find someone who is willing to die in his place. I preserved him from death. I tricked the fates. The goddesses agreed, you see, to let Admetus go if he sent another instead of himself to Hades. Admetus asks all of his friends and family if they are willing to die in his place, and the only one who agrees is his wife, Alcestis. While staying at Admetus's palace, Apollo argues with Death, but Death takes Alcestis regardless. Admetus holds Alcestis while she is dying, and she insists that he let her die. Let me go, Admetus. What are you doing? Let go. The dark road opens before me. Admetus then says, Pity your loved ones, pity most of all me, this grief we share. Admetus desperately wants to save his wife, but there is no way to, so he just cries his parents. His mother said no, his father said no. They begrudge their own son, old cowards. You sent your heart ahead of you to face death. Heracles then enters and offers to go and save Alcestis from the underworld as a favor to Admetus, seeing as he was so grateful for Admetus's hospitality. Heracles leaves for the underworld and returns with Alcestis. Gods, what can I say? This is beyond hope, inconceivable. Am I looking at my wife? My wife? Is it really Alcestis? The play ends with Heracles leaving and Admetus declaring parties are to be thrown. I didn't really think there was any peripeteia, Anagnorisis or Marcia as a whole here. Um, there's definitely Anagnorisis in that she gets brought back to life, but there's no realization that he had any fault. So I didn't think it was applicable to this play. I think the role of the chorus is a direct narrator. They add extra information and narrate for the audience, but they do not communicate directly to the characters. It can appear at times they're talking directly with the character, but they're simply adding context to the story. They also sing odes, which can help build suspense within the play. For example, after death comes for Alcestis, they sing a song that ends with, What shall I hear? Is Alcestis still a living soul or dead and gone? We need to know. Admetus. Admetus is an incredibly selfish and self-pitying. He is also a coward. He is the husband of Alcestis, son of Pheres. Admetus is an important character to include in my adaptation because he is one of the main characters in the play, and the events of the play cannot take place without his actions. Alcestis. Alcestis's main personality traits are selflessness and a sense of duty. She is the wife of Admetus. Alcestis is an important character to include in the adaptation because she is the primary character and the story cannot be told without her. Heracles. His personality is grateful and heroic. He's the guest friend of the house of Admetus. Heracles is an important character to include in my adaptation because he's the one that saves Alcestis and is very important for the arc in the story. Death. His personality is no nonsense and determined. He's a servant of Hades and has no relation to other characters in the books. I feel that Death is an important character to include in my adaptation because he is part of the reason that Alcestis is taken to the underworld. Without Death as a concept, the story is nothing, and the character is a literal representation of death. Symbols within Alcestis. I feel the character of Death is a symbol in Alcestis because he physically represents the inevitability of death. And despite his argument with Apollo, he still carries out his duties and kills Alcestis. There's this quote, plan to rob the dead of their prerogatives again. Make your own rules and cancel mine. It wasn't enough that you blocked Minos' death. Although she is later rescued by Hades, it won't be forever. Eventually, we all fall victim to death. Another symbol, I think Alcestis is a symbol of escape from death. And Minos is desperately looking for someone who's willing to take his place. and none other step up than his faithful wife. Alcestis promised to give her life in exchange for Admetus's, a promise which she regards as a personal debt which she now is obligated to pay to him. That's a quote from one of my sources. And she shows up in the book by offering her life in exchange for his. I believe the statue of Alcestis that Admetus says he will have commissioned and placed in their bed is a symbol of Admetus's love for Alcestis. Admetus tells Alcestis that he will commission the statue after she passes as a way of reassuring her he will never have another wife. I shall have a craftsman make a likeness of your body and lay it in our bed. There I can kiss it, hold it, calling your name, and pretend I have my dear wife in my arms. The major themes of Alcestis. I believe that the most important theme in Alcestis is the theme of death or the fear of death. It is Admetus's fear that leads to Alcestis dying and to his own mental anguish at the thought of her death. This quote, and Alcestis, this theme serves as a reminder of the possible compensation for the inevitability of death, an interpretation from another one of my sources. I believe that this quote is a decent interpretation of death in Alcestis. It doesn't specifically touch upon Admetus's fear of death. However, I still feel that it is useful in understanding the major themes of the play. Another major theme, the responsibility of women and girls in ancient Greece. Um, Alcestis's willingness to sacrifice herself to her husband makes this clear. Now listen to my dying wish, because I prize you more than my own living soul. It is clear that what makes life most worth living for these girls and most sad in losing is the prospect of due marriage and motherhood. Alcestis has what these girls can never have, and this is what she gives up. And this suggests that the right way to see her position is that she dies heroically to save her husband, so completing her commitment to her marriage to the utmost degree. A quote from another one of my sources. I believe that this above quote is an excellent quote of why Alcestis' sacrifice is portrayed as noble and is not a result of Asmedes' selfishness. I understand that Asmedes' cowardliness is touched on later, but her willing to do so in the first place is why I believe that's a theme. The final theme I identified was cowardliness, because Admetus is unwilling to die and is willing to sacrifice a loved one to save his life. But when his wife steps up and agrees to take his place, he's also too cowardly to face the reality that it was his cowardliness that caused this. After Alcestis dies, he's even mad at his father for not being willing to die for him. But it would have been a beautiful prize to win, dying for your son, he says to fairies. Moreover, he will not be able to bear the charges of those who will call him a coward, because he fled Hades by sacrificing his wife, who will denounce him for abusing and hating his parents for not saving him, although he himself was not willing to die. The quote from my source said, I believe that quote is a perfect interpretation of Admetus's cowardliness in this play. The new setting for my adaptation, it's going to be an upscale home in New Jersey. Um, I specifically chose New Jersey because there are some mob aspects to my adaptation, and upscale because, of course, the original play was in a palace. Characters reimagined. Admetus, I think his new name is Brody Walsh. His personality is entitled, he acts oblivious, and he's manipulative. He's the husband of Sorsha, who is, of course, Alcestis in this adaptation. I believe that he should be played by Pete Davidson. I said it might be a stretch, but I thought of Pete's character, Chad, on SNL when I thought of doing an adaptation of Admetus. Chad is incredibly unconcerned with what's going on around him, but people view him as caring. And then as Saoirse, I had her personality is caring, ditzy, and attention-seeking, played by Amy Poehler. I thought of her character in Parks and Rec and thought of how capable she seems of playing characters that might be ridiculous or over-exaggerated in certain areas. And the reason I wanted somebody who could be ridiculous or over-exaggerated is because it's supposed to be comical, the adaptation. So, as Death, I have Christian Bale, who's a personality of nonchalant, outgoing, and determined. His name is Rory Doyle, and he's a mob enforcer slash hitman. I chose Christian because of his role in American Psycho that stood out to me, because of particularly the scene where he's murdering somebody, and it's just incredibly casual and energetic while he's doing it, which is the same energy that I want to keep for my adaptation. Heracles. New name is Adrian Moore. He's kind of serious and kind of charismatic. He's not related to anybody in the play. He is a police detective, and he's played by Michael Keaton. I thought it was role in SWAT, the movie, not the show, because I wanted a similar energy for my adaptation. And I said for reference, I prefer a mix between his character in SWAT and the character of Bad Cop in the Lego movie. The chorus, I believe the chorus would be a narrator that adds comedic value. This person would be seen in the film but would never interact with the characters. Imagine a scene where it pans out from an event with Morgan Freeman narrating and adding context purely as an observer. I want, of course, Morgan Freeman to play it, just his voice. I don't have any particular roles to point to. I just feel that his voice could fit particularly very well with the vibe I'm trying to go for. The new plot. Brody, who's Admetus, works casually for the mob, ends up doing something to piss them off, and he needs to do something drastic to regain their trust or he's going to be killed. He comes up with the idea to offer them his wife as a sacrifice to prove his loyalty. They accept the offer. She overhears them talking about the plan and wants to be a part of it, not because she wants to be killed, because she doesn't understand what's going on due to a lack of intelligence. After the mob leaves with Saoirse, Brody goes on a self-discovery journey at the club. The police, who have been watching the whole time, go and take Brody into custody and bring him to the interrogation. Initially insistent he has nothing to do with the mob, he flips after being offered a Twinkie. The police go and bust the mob, who have Saoirse, who finally fully understood what was going on. She's mad that they busted the cops because she wanted the attention of going missing, thinking she was going to see herself on TV. Brody and Saoirse stay together after the events. I believe that this plot modernizes the plot of Alcestis by maintaining the spirit of the main thing, but modernizing in terms of location, names, and story. For example, in this adaptation, the mob would be the Fates. Heracles is a detective. Admetus is still cowardly and fool. Some of the bigger changes, though, would be in Alcestis, who's not really willingly sacrificing herself, but more um, have adapted the theme of the duty of women in ancient Greece into something a little more modern. I feel that could be more relatable to a modern audience. The symbols, my adaptation. I feel I wanted to keep the symbols roughly the same, but I really wanted to exaggerate them because, of course, it's supposed to be comedic, and it's quite difficult to make a tragedy into a comedy um, without making things quite ridiculous. So I said death is to remain a symbol in this adaptation instead of a death in a Grim Reaper style, is instead a mob enforcer slash hitman representation. He will appear in the film a few times before the actual death of Saoirse. And then I feel that having him appear a few times aids in the symbolism of it because it's hints at what's coming. And I feel this version of the symbol fits better into a modern adaptation because we're moving away from mythical and we're moving into something that's more realistic and relatable in a way. Another symbol I'm going to use, instead of the statue that Admetus was going to commission, it's a picture that Brody's going to keep in his wallet of Saoirse. This will replace the statue that Admetus was going to commission. As I said, um, the photo will represent the love and longing that Brody has for his wife. So the photo fits better into the new setting because it's still personal, seeing as it's a physical photo instead of a digital one. Um, and it would be difficult to commission a statue of your loved one. Um, so I feel this fits the modern adaptation better. Saoirse as an adapted symbol because she represents Brody's escape from death when he needs to escape from the mob. This has been adapted for modern times by eliminating the portions from the underworld and superhuman figures, Heracles in this case, and instead of replacing them with familiar figures such as criminals and law enforcement. I really went for something that was closer to not quite one to one, but I didn't take too many liberties when I was brainstorming this adaptation. It felt it would be truer to the play to keep it closer. Some reimagined themes I had. My adaptation is intended to be a comedy, so I want to retain the same fundamental themes and make them ridiculous. For example, death of the scene would be exaggerated and the reaction to it dulled. For example, if Brody were to see his wife dies, he would only be slightly bothered. Um, Imagine a scene where he's gently crying at a strip club as opposed to him saying he will never have another wife after Alcestis dies in the play, which of course Admetus does. Um, I realized that more after his wife is taken. Um, I think the fear of death for Brody, who's Admetus, would remain and be the center point of the film. I also want to, again, retain the themes of cowardliness within the adaptation, but I want to adapt it by making Brody offer his wife to the mob instead of her willingly offering herself, because I think that effectively retains his cowardliness, while we can still feel that it's been modernized and I can achieve what I wanted to achieve within my adaptation. Another theme, a theme of responsibility for women and girls in ancient Greece is going to be adapted into like someone feeling they need like attention or followers to be considered socially viable. This is probably the biggest liberty I took because I feel it is relevant considering um, just modern conversation about what we're talking about in terms of gender roles and how that's affecting everything. I said instead of feeling a need to find and serve a husband and bear children, there's instead pressure to act a certain way socially. At the end of the adaptation, Saoirse is upset because she wasn't going to get as much media attention after she was saved from law enforcement, possibly. Some music that I would do. Um, I believe the song "The Sound of Silence" by Simon and Garfunkel, at least the first verse, would be very useful for my presentation. I believe that this song would fit well into my adaptation because of the somber lyrics. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. I feel this first line could work well, perhaps just after Admetos learns he's going to die, but just before he learns he's going to find someone else to take his place. Another one, Grenade, particularly, there's some lines in there that I thought could be um, useful or aid in the story, where he's saying perhaps it could go after, well, he's talking to his mother, or when Saoirse gets taken, or when he offers her. Says, I would go through all this pain to get a bullet through the brain. Yes, I would die for you, baby, but you wouldn't do the same. And then here are my sources, which I will leave up for a second so you can read through them. Um, the first four are not scholarly, but the last four, well, the last three are. And then, of course, I cited the translation that we used for Alcestis. Thank you, and I hope that this was good enough.